Last week I was alerted to a story by a Year 12 student currently undertaking the HSC in New South Wales. It seems a poem in the HSC English exam set off a controversy that was blown out of all proportion by the media. Why? Because as certain parts of the media are prone to do when there's a story involving criticism levelled at an Indigenous person, they lazily reached for the racism card. So in section 1 of the recent HSC English exam, the first question was about a poem. Now the poem is an unseen text, meaning that students would not have come across this text in their studies for the HSC. So unless they're a poetry buff, it is more than likely that no one would ever have read it before or even known who the author is. As it turns out, the author is one Ellen van Nerven, which sounds Dutch to me, but it turns out she's in fact a young Indigenous woman. But even if the students had access to a photo of Van Nerven in the exam, which they didn't, they only had her name, then it's unlikely they would have guessed she was Indigenous. Now, I once had a poem published in my high school magazine when I was 13 years old, but I really can't claim any literary credentials whatsoever. So I'll leave you to make your own assessment of the poem. The poem is called Mangoes, from Van Nerven's book Comfort Food, and it reads to me like the poet recalling fragments of a childhood experience. Perhaps it may inspire something in you, but it didn't do a great deal for me. The question asked in the exam was, explain how the poet conveys the delight of discovery. And this is what the initial controversy was all about. It had nothing to do with the author being Indigenous, because the students didn't know she was Indigenous. The students objected to the quality of the poem and thus the difficulty of answering the question. As one student wrote, in all honesty, there wasn't much to analyse because it reads like a 4-year-old wrote it. Here's another less than generous assessment. We were asked to analyse your mango fucked poem, and I'm asking what the fuck was the point of your mango bullshit. Some were even more to the point. On behalf of the state, I would like to say fuck you and your fucking mango poem. Pretty harsh. But the one that got the headlines was this image. The ABC claimed that the author of this meme was comparing Ellen van Nerven to a monkey. A Fairfax journalist wrote, another post compared the author to a monkey at a typewriter. Channel 7 claimed HSC students were racially abusing Van Nerven. And over at SBS, NITV ran with the headline, Indigenous author attacked by Year 12 students compared to a chimpanzee. And of course, we all know what that means when you compare an Indigenous person to a monkey. Just fill in the blank space provided for racist and cue the Adam Goodes comparisons. But was that the intention of the creator of the meme, who, remember, was most probably unaware of the author's identity? Well, you'd think the media might have asked. It seems some journalists confuse the word ask with accuse. Osman Faruqi, a writer for the aptly named Junkie, was typical of the accuse before ask crowd. Maybe with a little research you could have located the photo. Here it is on Wikipedia alongside the infinite monkey theorem, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. But if you're not, basically the theorem states that a monkey hitting keys on a typewriter keyboard for an infinite amount of time will almost surely type a given text, such as the complete works of William Shakespeare. Now, a blogger by the name of Tanya wrote a great piece on this and contacted the meme creator and had the following exchange. And as you can see, the author, Josh, claims he did not know the identity of the author and he was simply trying to express the idea that the poem was so nonsensical a monkey sitting at a typewriter could have produced it. Josh also is allegedly the author of this post on Facebook, claiming that he received over 50 death threats in 24 hours and expressed his disappointment with the media coverage. Also, he claims that a friend of Van Nerven's posted screenshots that appeared on a news website which included his name and resulted in calls to his home, his mother, and threats to contact his school. He concludes, I'm not looking for sympathy, I'm just trying to give insight into the gross misconduct and lack of journalistic integrity that is so rampant these days. Amen to that, brother. Now, it should be kept in mind that Van Nerven is innocent in all this. She didn't submit her poem to be included. It was selected by a committee of English teachers, and Van Nerven was not given advance notice that there would be a question centred around her poem. And there were subsequently real racist comments directed at Indigenous people, which is unfortunate, and those that made them should be called out for it. But you have to wonder if the media hadn't beat up the story, if any of that would have surfaced. Others came up with a better way to satirise the poem. Despite an onslaught of complaints about the media coverage, the group continues to post memes about both the poem and the incident. Multiple members have changed their Facebook profile images to photos of mangoes, and one member created a Mango Appreciation Evening event, the description for which uses references to Van Nerven's poem. Interestingly, in another poem, Van Nerven laments, "Can I say white people really bore me sometimes?" Well, I'd say quite clearly, you can say that. And not only can you say it, you can get it published and it will be celebrated. But I doubt any white Australians confessing to Indigenous people boring them would get the same treatment. And so to the important question, why do sections of the media insist on playing the race card instead of providing the proper context of this story? Well, as usual, Anthony Dillon can be relied upon for some words of wisdom on this topic. The following came from a piece he wrote in response to the Adam Goodes controversy in 2015. Proclaiming racism is terrible and I oppose it allows the speaker to usurp the high moral ground and take on the role, if only in the imagination, of saint, rescuer and hero. They can feel they have made a difference while actually doing nothing of value. Editors of newspapers and web page administrators wallow in this self-adulation and warm fuzzy self-regard. The truth is that those who promote the convenient myth of endemic racism succeed in diverting attention from the issues they prefer not to discuss. The distraction they provide from real problems and real solutions is thoroughly destructive. Amen to that. And I'd just like to say a big thank you to Erin for all her help on this story, and I wish her all the best with her remaining 3 HSC exams. Good luck, and I'll see you next time.